Hi, guys. Welcome back. Listen, once upon a time, your boy used to read a lot of books, and I got really good at predicting the end of a story. So, what I did today was I patched together four YouTubers and their individual videos to form a story. So, I hope you enjoy the story.
Today, we're actually going to dive a little bit more into the world of these weight loss drugs that has taken the world by storm. And we're going to look at better options besides the GLP-1 medications like Wegovy and Zepbound. Now, I know you've probably heard about the amazing success stories of people using these drugs to shed a ton of weight. And actually, it's true. These medications are actually expected to be top-selling drugs in 2024. But here's the thing, and there's always a thing, isn't there? So some experts are really actually starting to question whether they actually provide the healthiest option. And one of the biggest concerns that we're seeing with these GLP drugs is that they can actually cause people to lose muscle along with fat. In fact, the studies show that up to 40% of the weight loss might have come from muscle. And this especially can be worrisome in people that are a little bit older who are already prone to losing muscle as they age. You see, losing muscle isn't just about looking less toned, it actually can lead to some pretty serious issues like a higher chance of breaking bones, poor heart health, and even greater risks of dying earlier. The other thing is that it affects your metabolism. So while the muscle loss from GLP drugs might not be a huge concern for everyone, it's definitely something to think about. But is it really a medication that's going to be the answer? We know now more than we have before that there are other pieces to the equation. So my suggestion right now is that you actually look at what are the other possibilities if you're really interested in getting some of the weight off for the rest of your life. And look at some of the information I have at the link underneath that might give you information about what can you do that might also help with your appetite, help control your cravings, and take the noise of food away. I actually coined that term about 8 years ago, and now everyone's using it in the industry. So please be aware that building muscle is going to be really important. And also, we need to reduce our fat because body fat can increase inflammation, which is really one of the things that predicts our health long term. So, options: using allulose, apple cider vinegar, doing weight training. So please share this with other people. They're all interested in kind of getting that weight up as well. And also understand that muscle loss is a big, big deal.
Okay, so that was Marcel Pick. Her part of the story was basically that, yes, people that are going on these weight injection drugs are losing a lot of weight, but a good significant portion of that could be muscle. When you lose muscle along with your fat, it's basically kind of like aging, in my opinion. Let's hear what Dr. Jesse Abend has to say.
Hey, I'm Dr. Jesse, and in this video, I'm going to be going over a recent article talking about how if you stop taking these newer weight loss medications, you're likely going to regain all of the weight you lost back in at least 5 years. And this is actually based on a study done by the company that makes one of these weight loss drugs. So let's get into it. Novo Nordisk says stopping obesity drug may cause full weight regain in 5 years. Now, Novo Nordisk is the company that makes the weight loss drug called Wegovy. Patients discontinuing the use of weight loss drugs such as Wegovy risk regaining their original body weight in about 5 years, a Novo Nordisk official said on Wednesday. Based on individual profile, patients could gain back about half of the original body weight in 2 to 3 years if they stop the treatment. Now that's big news, right? It's saying that if you start taking this drug for weight loss, you will likely have to stay on this drug for your entire life, because if you don't, you will likely end up gaining back almost all of the weight that you lost on the drug. Data from a Novo-funded study in April last year show that patients regained 2/3 of their lost weight 1 year after discontinuing the use of the drug. Because I think a lot of people, when they hear about these new weight loss drugs coming out, they think it's a miracle cure. You take it and then you're done. You're changed. You're beautiful forever, right? But that's not how it works. These weight loss drugs, like most drugs that treat chronic diseases that include type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, now obesity and overweight, are never going to be miracle drugs and cures, because all of these diseases and health problems all stem from your lifestyle, or essentially what you eat, your exercise, how you sleep, how you handle mental stress, etc. And so if you're not addressing the root cause of all of these diseases, you're always likely going to have to rely and become dependent on the medication that treats the symptoms. The data had pointed to the chronic nature of obesity and suggested that continuous treatment would be required to maintain weight and health improvement. And that's exactly what I just said. There is no miracle drug, and I just spoke about that.
And I'm seeing a trend in.
Okay, super quick. So people are losing a lot of weight, but Marcel Pick told us that about 40% of that weight is in many cases muscle. Dr. Jesse just told us that within 2 to 5 years, most people end up gaining back 2/3 of that weight. Wouldn't it be messed up if they gained back all the fat and none of the muscle? So Jesse also told us, didn't mean to yell there. Jesse also told us that we basically have to stay on the injection for the rest of our lives. Otherwise, we are going to gain it back. That's from the company that created the drug itself. Now we're going to go to Fit Flavor Fun, and she's going to add to this story.
In insurance companies really squashing these GLP-1 medications, and I wanted to talk about it because people, unfortunately, are under the misunderstanding that insurance companies care about you. They don't. So they don't care about you specifically, and they don't care about your health. The fact that people are having so much success on these GLP-1 medications is phenomenal, and it was not something that the pharmaceutical companies anticipated, which is why we're having such a huge shortage, right? We're having all these issues. Back to insurance companies. So insurance companies, because these medications are so expensive and they will continue to be expensive for the next few years until the patents run out and we get some sort of generic, they are putting the kibosh on these medications, which means if you are prescribed a medication, a GLP-1, Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, Mounjaro, it doesn't matter, Trulicity, it doesn't matter which one, they are only going to allow you to get that medication for a certain amount of time. It looks like most insurance companies, again, you're going to have to check with yours individually. It looks like for diabetes, they are letting it run. They'll allow you to be on the medication for 2 years. Other insurance companies, it's 1 year. For weight loss versions, right, like Zepbound, it's 1 year.
So 40% of the weight you're going to lose is muscle. 2/3 of the weight you lose is going to be brought right back when you quit. Your insurance company is going to cover it for 1 year if it deals with weight loss. Guys, the last I heard, that is a recipe for disaster.
Now, the other thing that you need to know is if you are on a weight loss version of the drugs, right, Wegovy and Zepbound, a lot of insurance companies are really cracking down on how much weight you're losing, which is incredibly unhealthy for our mental health, right? But there have been multiple posts at this point where people have been on the medication for 5 months or less. They've gone in for their first follow-up, right, with their doctor, where you have to do your labs, make sure everything's going well, they weigh you, and they have not met the criteria that the insurance company has arbitrarily set, and therefore they are getting booted off of coverage for those medications. And you need to have a plan. If you haven't already watched my video on compounding, please go watch that so that you can educate yourself on compounds, because that is really the route that a lot of people are going to end up going, because insurance companies do not want to pay for these medications.
One of the most common questions I get, though, is what
Insurance does not want to pay for these medications. You're going to have to be on these medications for life. Otherwise, you're going to gain it back. And when you gain it back, you're going to be gaining it back as a person that has less muscle than you've ever had. Now we're going to talk to Dr. David Kim about what this medication is going to cost you when your insurance, or if your insurance, no longer wants to cover it.
is the cost of the medication? Now, if you have an insurance that covers it, and I'd say about 50% of the time, my patient's insurances seem to cover it, then your copay might only be $25 or nothing. But if you have to pay cash, or your insurance is only partially paying for it, then the price can be as high as $1,300 to $1,700 a month. Or if they pay for half of it, then maybe it'd be about $800 a month.
If you go on these drugs,
so basically, these drugs are going to cost you potentially up to $1,400, $1,500 or more. And if your insurance is willing to go halvesies with you, it'll only cost you $800. I don't know about you guys, but is that something that you want to jump into potentially for the rest of your life? Let's hear what Dr. Jesse has to say to finish this up.
and you're not addressing your diet, your exercise, and your underlying lifestyle factors, you're always going to have to depend on this drug. And you can't expect to then stop these drugs and think that the weight you lost is going to stay that way. It's not, because you didn't affect your diet and exercise. And so if you didn't do that, you're just going to gain it all back. And I think the best advice I can give anyone when starting out who is trying to eat healthier and exercise more is take it slow. Make small changes over a long period of time, and it will take months and most likely years, but stay consistent, stay determined, and you will end up changing who you are. It doesn't happen overnight.
It doesn't happen overnight. Guys, I want you guys to walk with me so bad. We're doing a 90-day challenge here in the next 7 or 8 days. If you're watching my show for the first time ever, I like to show what other people are going through with their weight loss. There's going to be so many opportunities in the future for you to go on these medications, but these medications are potentially for life, and they might potentially not be as great as every doctor, expert, and scientist is saying they are. What I recommend that you do before you jump into anything is take on a walk with me. So go grab your shoes. Let's go for a walk.
Good morning, Venters. Hey, good news, guys. The NIH is working on a male birth control. So, good news for young guys. You got male birth control going. As if you young guys didn't have enough issues with having no babies nowadays. Now the NIH wants you to have birth control. God, that's so crazy. I feel like guys are different than we used to be, you know? But nowadays, I feel like birth control is probably the perfect thing for some of these guys. Kind of makes sense, right? You go up to some of these guys nowadays and, hey, what's your deal? I'm on birth control. Oh, okay, got you. I thought that was a little funny. I don't really have much to say about it other than, hey, the NIH is working on male birth control. It's really weird because I don't know if you guys have heard, we've got a population collapse issue in America, in Japan, in most of the Western world. A situation where, like, for example, here in America, instead of having 2 kids, I think the average woman only has like 1.1 children nowadays. And apparently you need like 2.1 to keep the population growth going at a steady rate where there's enough replacement workers of young people to take care of the elderly people that are retiring. We've got a major population issue here in the country, and most of the Western world does. So whenever you hear a situation where the NIH is making male birth control, it hardly seems like something to be doing at this point. But there are some people out there that believe that the elites of the world are trying to lower the population. So go elites of the world. No, just kidding. But yeah, it does kind of seem like they're trying to lower the population, because when you have a situation where everybody in the country is having less babies than they used to, and then you're trying to fund studies for male birth control, just seems really, really odd to me. Seems like bad timing. I could see them doing that back in the 80s or 90s when we had a ton of teen births. God, do you guys remember that back in the 90s? I live in Arizona, so we were always told that, hey, other than Mississippi, we have the highest rate of teenage moms. And back then it was like a real issue. But, you know, I don't know, back then we were, I guess, just a more romantic group of kids. We liked to try to make babies back then. I don't know what the kids do nowadays, but apparently not that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. Hey, I have a question for you. Have you ever heard the sound of a cat when they're in heat? I remember once when I was a little boy, we had this orange cat that my mom let me bring in. And I remember it was going through heat. And I never had experienced such a thing, but at 1 or 2 in the morning when we were trying to sleep, the cat would go by the front door and just do these really crazy yelling type of sounds. And finally my mom would be like, let that dang cat outside, get out of here. So we opened the door, let the cat out, right? And then a couple weeks later, I think the cat got fleas or something, because I just remember us itching and scratching like crazy. Maybe it was bed bugs, who knows? It was back when I was like 4, 5, 6 years old. But that was my first encounter with cats in heat. Fast forward about a dozen or so years, and all of a sudden I'm in high school. At my high school that still stands. The reason I say that is I went to a junior high school that doesn't stand anymore, and it disappeared, and maybe one day I'll tell you how, or maybe later in this walk we'll talk about how it reminds me of a movie. But anyway, I was at high school. After school, we're hanging out, I think at football practice, and all of a sudden I hear what sounds like a cat in heat, you know, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, that cat is loud. Because whatever cat it was like, you know, a couple 100 yards down past the football field, past the baseball field, and in the neighborhoods. And someone told me, oh, hell no, that ain't a cat. I go, yeah, that's a cat in heat. I've heard that sound many a times. They go, no, that's a peacock. So why do I tell you this? Well, I used to walk home after I found this out, and sometimes you would see what could best be described as like a dragon flying through the air. The only thing is, it was no dragon. It was a peacock. And I had multiple walks home where you would hear these peacocks. Again, they sound like cats in heat. And the best way I could describe it is just this really loud, sounds like a cat meowing. But these birds, apparently when they fly, they can only fly for a small amount of time, but they can leap like crazy. So imagine this bird out of nowhere just runs in front of me, leaps onto a roof. And it looks bizarre because peacocks are obviously beautiful. But when they leap and jump onto roofs and into backyards and stuff, it can be really desettling or unsettling, whatever the word would be there. But it's really trippy, beautiful, but really trippy. They look like dragons or something when they jump. And it's amazing to see an animal that's only 2 or 3 feet tall leap onto a roof or over a fence It's crazy, and I've actually seen that. So anyway, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because in Phoenix, somebody has 3 peacocks as a pet. And it made the news yesterday, and I just laughed because it reminded me of back when I was in high school. And apparently these 3 peacocks, the neighbors are split. Some of the neighbors say, oh, they're beautiful and we love them, right? But apparently they jump out of their backyard and they jump onto the neighbors' vehicles, and apparently when they jump onto vehicles, they have a tendency to scratch the heck out of them, right? So in this neighborhood in Phoenix, people are complaining about these 3 peacocks. And what was funny is the news actually busted out the camera, right? And they were showing these peacocks just walking willy-nilly through the neighborhood. Now keep in mind, these are somebody's pets. It's expected when you have pets, at least in Arizona, that your pets stay in your backyard like a dog would, or how a cat would be a house cat, right? But these peacocks jump so incredibly well. Good luck keeping them in anyone's backyard. And it was just funny because the news had the camera. And have you ever seen a story where they don't really have footage, but they tell you the story anyway, right? And maybe they show you a picture of a beautiful peacock, but you don't really see the footage, right? Well, the news had footage, and it's showing these peacocks just walking wherever they want in the neighborhood, like they had the neighborhood all to themselves. And I just thought that was the most hilarious thing. Could you imagine if you're looking out your window into your front or backyard and all of a sudden you see this giant blue and green peacock? I believe the males are the blue and green one. They're real pretty because they have to attract the females. And I believe the females are only like a dull color. I forget the whole thing, but I'm pretty sure it's the males that have the beautiful, green and blue colors to attract the females. But man, they better be pretty because they sound like cats in heat. I don't know who would be attracted to that sound they make. But anyway, hopefully that gives you a little chuckle. Could you imagine getting the shit scared out of you because some peacock starts screaming at you in your backyard? That would be crazy. But yeah, back to the birth control. I don't think I would want it. I don't think I would want it, no matter how much I liked girls when I was in my 20s and stuff. I think I would resist that. Actually, who knows? In your 20s, you like girls so much, maybe you would take birth control. Who knows? Not that I dislike girls into my 40s, but it wasn't quite as on my mind as much as it was in my 20s, God, do you guys remember when we were teenagers and in our early 20s? Oh my God, back then, you had nothing but the opposite sex on your mind all the time, or significant others. You didn't necessarily have the opposite sex, but you had different people on your mind all the time. Now, here's the weird thing. I don't think that happens as much anymore because of the phone. You're not in your thoughts thinking about, God, I wish I could date her, or I wish I could date him. You're on your phone playing Candy Crush, or you're on your phone, talking to somebody in another part of the world, or watching a film. You have no time to your thoughts. It's really weird. If you took away everybody's phone, how different would people be than they are now? There's probably some people that are on their phone constantly that if there never was a such thing as a cell phone, they would probably be very, very sociable, very talkative people. I'm telling you, these cell phones are literally changing us. And if you were born, like let's say you're 15, 16 years old, and you were born into a world where you've always known everybody to have cell phones, God, you can't even go back. If we have a solar storm and all those things are knocked off the grid, you're going to have a real hard time in a world without cell phones. Now, I say that with an asterisk because, guys, I have a feeling cell phones are going to be here forever. And if they ever change or aren't here, it'll be because they evolved to a watch, or they evolved to smart glasses, or whatever the case might be. But I have a feeling they're going to be here forever. And that might not be a good thing, but at the same time, the only way they're going to disappear is if something cataclysmic happens, like a solar storm or something. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. I thought that was very fascinating. How do you guys feel about this population crunch? Does it worry you? If it doesn't, you know, there is going to come a point where we are elderly and we're living on some sort of Social Security. And if there's no young people to take those jobs to pay into that Social Security, I could definitely see that being a scary situation. So hopefully we can get those numbers turned around. But I don't really know how they would get that turned around other than just to give incredible tax breaks. But if you're giving incredible tax breaks to spur on the population, then what's that tell you about your taxes? It tells you they're crazy high. That'll be what they'll do, right? They'll give somebody some really good tax credits to have children in the future. So maybe there'll be a reason for young people to grow their family. But I think that's probably the only way. I heard that back thousands of years ago, that there was a problem with, I think it was the Romans or the Greeks, and I think the governments back then would provide large tax incentives to have children and stuff. So it has been done in world history before. Maybe we could do that again. We got to do something to spur the production of babies. And if you're one of these people that thinks there's too many people on the earth, you might be right, but the problem is the too many people are elderly. Not enough people are young. So what's going to happen is for every 5-6 people that pass away, there's not very many people to replace them. And that might be good in one sense, right? Because if people are passing away, there's money's not needed to go towards them, right? But at the same time, before they pass away, there's a lot of seniors. And we don't want our seniors to pass away quickly. Wouldn't that be horrible in the future? It becomes like that Soylent Green movie where everybody has to pass away and die at the age of 40 or 50. It's like your duty to take your last breath in your 40s or 50s. That would really suck because you and I know how fast the 40s and 50s come. And every time people hit their 40s and 50s, usually they're thinking, how can I live the next 30 or 40 years in good health? So their thought isn't, you know, I'm ready to expire. God, ever since the last couple days with the heat, man, it is really dry out here. We actually live in a state where we're affected by the monsoons, which means even though it's dry as heck today, technically this time of year is when it actually rains more in Arizona. You think it would rain more during the winter just because, you know, maybe there's some more moisture in the air, but the reality is the exact opposite. It rains more during the summer. And it usually ends up being a weird situation where the day that it rains, it's pretty comfortable temperature-wise, you know, because it cools down. But then, hey, good morning. But then a day or two after it rains, you're left with this heat where there's humidity in the air, and it is miserable. And again, it's nothing like the humidity you guys have back east, but it is still miserable on those days because it's like 107 and the humidity makes it feel really sticky and gross. So yeah, you would think we would love it when it rains, and we do, but it's not a perfect love. It's kind of an unconditional love. And you know how those can be. Oh my God, don't get me started. So I thought the peacocks were really funny. Sometimes you hear stories like that and it reminds you of when you were younger, you know? And when I was younger, trust me, I probably would have been all ears when it came to like a male birth control. But as you get older, you realize that the longer you can go without taking medicines or putting anything in your body, it's probably for the best, you know? Do you guys trust things that are coming down the pipeway as far as, you know, different drugs and medications? For me, I look at it now, and I've watched so many videos on big pharma and how a lot of times, you know, money is the root of all these medications. You know, it's all about money and profits. And it's just like, I just don't think I want to go down that route. I think I want to try to go my whole life without any medications, which, by the way, I am one of these lucky people, knock on wood, that I don't take any medications. And I still have all my teeth, you know, and I'm usually in a range where, you know, my body weight usually isn't too bad. I have incredibly good blood pressure. At least that's what they always tell me. They're like, oh my God, you got really good blood pressure. So I don't know if that's from walking or if that's just genetics, but either way, in a couple of days when I'm finished with my first 90-day challenge, I think I'm gonna get in connection with my doctor, retake the labs that I did, and then we can kind of get an idea. Maybe we can compare them and see how my blood work has hopefully improved over whatever it was. Whatever it was, I don't know if it was the absolute most horrible, because the doctor didn't really seem like he cared about it too much. He just told me I was, you know, pre-diabetic and stuff, and, you know, to try to change my diet and walk more. So I don't know if it was on the lower range of pre-diabetes or if it was in the mid-range, but I don't think it was in the, you know, red alert range by any means. So what do you guys think of this upcoming debate with the two presidents, Biden and Trump? I think that's interesting because from what I understand, they're going to try to set it up where there is no audience in the crowd and stuff. And that's just really weird. There's a lot of things that are really weird with our country now. I don't understand why things are allowed to be the way they are, but it is what it is. So I guess all you can kind of do is sit back, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the movie. So today the NBA finals start. We've got Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks taking on Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. I'm rooting for the Mavericks. I'm hoping Luka wins his first of many championships. I've never seen a player that's so fun to watch other than maybe Steph Curry. Those are probably my top two favorite basketball players to watch. If you're a basketball fan, please let me know who you're rooting for, the Celtics or the Mavericks. Because neither is my team, I'm okay if either of them win or lose. But just in case you're wondering, I'm kind of rooting for the Mavericks. This is the first year that I really got into basketball since a couple years back when the Phoenix Suns lost to Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks. Antetokounmpo, I think I pronounced that right. And that was a real disappointment. I feel like Phoenix might have a little bit of a curse when it comes to professional sports. We also lost our hockey team. I don't know if you guys heard about that, but our hockey team is moving from, I think, Arizona. I think it's moving to Utah or something. So there you go. I was never really into hockey, but it is kind of a bummer to see any professional team leave, because now if there's ever a moment in the future where a friend or family member wants to go to a hockey game, we can't do that. And hockey was always one of those games where I told myself I would eventually go and check out a game in person, but I never ended up going. You don't do things when you're young and have the energy, you might not ever get around to them. And it's not like it takes energy to go to a sports game or a sporting event. You know what I want to do that's really weird? I thought I would never want to do it. There's a place here called the Broadway Theater where they actually do little plays and stuff, not movies, but plays. And I used to love going to little high school plays when I was in school, just because I thought they were fun and interesting and entertaining. And I think I'd like to do that as an adult. I've been trying to ask various friends and family members if they'd like to go. And they always say, yeah, I wouldn't be against it, but then I've never actually, went there and found out the times that they were having certain theatrics and, when to come. But maybe I'll do that this weekend. Maybe that'll be something fun I can do. Sometimes we get stuck in these routines where we just kind of Groundhog Day life. And what I mean by that is there's a famous Bill Murray movie called Groundhog Day. And if you've seen it, you know what I mean, where every day he wakes up and it's the same day. And he's trying to relive this same day, and he likes the woman that he works with, so he tries to figure out how to make love at first sight happen with her, because he'd like to be able to kiss and make out with her and different things, you know. But a lot of times women, you know, they don't necessarily want to kiss or make out on the first date, right? So Bill Murray has to be crafty. And in his mind's eye, it's not a first date, it's their 30th date in a row, right? Because it's Groundhog Day. Really funny, really cute movie. Trust me, if you haven't seen Groundhog Day, you must see it. It's right up there with What About Bob, as in funny movies with Bill Murray that you really should check out. They're worth watching. God, guys, we're down to the point where we only have a little bit over 1 week left. And I'm excited. And next week I'm taking a vacation. So what I'm going to do for basically the last week is I'm going to try to take not 1, not 2, but potentially 3 walks. So if you think, you know, hey, what are you going to do for your last week? You going to do anything crazy? Not really, guys, just maybe an extra walk. I don't even know if it'll help me at all, other than maybe a little quarter or half pound here or there. But I'm just such a firm believer that your body becomes more efficient, that once I start losing weight, it just keeps coming off. And I have a feeling you're going to experience that same thing. Hey, on another note, if you guys could do me a favor and not only smash that thumbs up and subscribe button, but if you guys could start keeping an eye out on some YouTubers that are going through trials and tribulations with their diet, and just kind of hint me off to them, because when you guys do tell me about these different YouTubers, believe me, I go and I do check out their channels. In case you're wondering, hey, I told you about such and such YouTuber, but I never saw you do a story on them. Sometimes when I go to that YouTuber's channel and I check out the different diet and exercise plan they're going through, sometimes it's really hard for me to work with a half-hour or 45-minute video unless I have the time, like on a weekend, to kind of break it down, figure which 5, 10, or 15 minutes I want to use from it. And sometimes they have workouts that are, you know, where there's just so much stuff on the screen that it's hard for me to place my individual camera in a corner so that I don't interrupt what people are supposed to see. So sometimes some YouTubers make it really challenging. Another thing that a lot of YouTubers do that's kind of annoying is they have background music that'll run during their little talk that they're doing. And it's no big deal if it's instrumentals. I can remove instrumentals like beats and background sounds, but I can't remove lyrics, because when lyrics are on and I use my vocal isolation on my editing software, it thinks that I'll tell you guys, the weather's getting so warm that I had to go ahead and do a battery change real quick. And it always happens right around this area. So, man, it's getting hot. I believe today it's supposed to be another one of those days where it gets up to like 110. And it's really weird how it just kind of came out of nowhere, in my opinion. You know, when it goes from 99, 101, 102, and all of a sudden you're popping in the 110s. Ooh, that's a big jump, you know? One of those jumps where you can't really notice when you're indoors in the air condition, but man, when you open your front door, it feels like you're jumping into an oven. I wonder if that will create a situation where this final 8 days or so, I wonder if that extra heat will create a situation where maybe it's easier to lose an extra pound or 2 because of the heat. I've been watching a lot of little pieces of videos where they're talking about the weighted vest. Now, this is a time of year where the last thing I want to do is put a weighted vest on, because my God, it's going to make tough, challenging heat that much more challenging, you know? But if you're in an area where the temperatures aren't too bad, and you want to up your intensity and potentially lose a couple more pounds a little bit faster, you know, maybe contemplate going down to Walmart or Target and buying one of these $20 or $30 weighted vests. They usually come with 8, 9, 10 pounds to them. And then when you wear those, it literally equates to a situation where you're having to kind of battle a little bit more a little bit harder, and you're having to exercise with a little bit more vigor. And apparently they help people lose weight a little bit faster. I would wear my weighted vest back in the day and do push-ups and different type of calisthenics on it, but I would walk with it as well. The only thing is I don't know if it made my walks that much better or not, because back in the day I wouldn't necessarily weigh myself all the time. I didn't have a scale for the longest time. I would go into Walmart or Big Lots and set their scale on the floor and step on it real quick and then set it back up on the shelf. That's how I would always find out what my weight was. Or at a doctor's visit, A lot of times, even if we don't know a scale, a lot of times we as people still know our weight. What I'd like for you guys to do is, maybe try to find an old picture of yourself from 2 or 3 months ago and try to take a new picture and compare the two. And if you knew what your weight was a couple months ago and it has drastically changed, let us know. Guys, Lily deserves a congratulations, Lily. She wrote in a comment yesterday that she's down 11 pounds. And one of the things that she gives credit to for that pounds coming off of her body is the fact that she's starting to walk every day. So Lily, I'm glad that you're starting to notice the benefits. Here's the question I have for you. Imagine if you didn't start walking over the last 4 months or so, but imagine if you had been walking over the past 2 or 3 decades, you would probably be in a different body altogether. And that's why we know that this plan works. All you have to do is ask yourself, hey, if I had been doing this plan over the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, would I be anywhere near the weight that I am now? Guys, the answer is heck no. If we all did this walking routine and everything for the past couple years, I have a feeling all of us, and I mean every one of us, would be in tip-top shape. Are there some people that have genetic situations where no matter what they do, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't? Of course. Is that you necessarily? Probably not. Now, if you are one of these individuals, God bless you. We want everything in our power to work for you. But sometimes we have to just bear our cross in life. And sometimes some of us don't have the best health. But again, that's not everybody. And if you are one of these people, it probably upsets you when you see people that are in good health, they're just not doing what they need to do, and they start to invoke the powers of, this is beyond me, I'm not capable of doing this, it's my genetics. And the reason it irritates you is because you legitimately have situations that prevent you from exercising, prevent you from taking care of your body. A lot of these people, it's all talk. They're talking themselves out of trying. Don't ever talk yourself out of trying. And when doctors tell you there's something that you can't do, you owe it to yourself to try to prove those doctors wrong. And guys, I'm a firm believer, 90 days, 3 simple months, it goes by so fast. Does it blow anybody away besides me that we're already into our day 82? Guys, that's amazing how fast 80 days can go by. So again, if you're new, if you're thinking about doing this walking thing, walk with me here from day 1, and day 1's going to start in about a week and a couple days, and let's do this 90-day thing together. And if you know in your heart you are going to do the 90-day plan coming up, start walking with us now so you can start getting your legs ready. You can start getting used to the heat. You don't want to start walking when it's 110. You want to start walking now before it gets to 110 so you're used to it. Guys, I want to wish you a happy Friday and a happy, safe weekend. We'll talk soon.